Okay, why don't we get started? Again, thank you everyone for attending today. My name is Geoff Ellis. I'm the COO at Wherefour, and we are lucky enough to be joined by Derek of Bizzy Coffee, Derek Hoffman, who's going to tell us the story of Bizzy's frenzied growth and success. Before we get into that, a couple of housekeeping items. We will send out an email at the conclusion of the webinar that will have a link to it, as well as our contact info should you want to get in contact with either of us. And then as we go today, there's a Q&A button should be a Q&A button on your Zoom. And if you want to type in any questions as we go, we can either ask them in process or answer them in process or at the end. So without further ado, why don't we get going here? So the agenda, we're going to give you a quick blurb about Bizzy Coffee and Wherefour, some of the growth challenges that they faced and the learnings against those, integrating tech into their beverage operation, and some of their process tweaks that were very successful, and maybe a secret of a thing or two they might have done differently. So Derek, why don't you tell us a little bit about the story of yourself and Bizzy?
Yeah, great to be here with everyone today. Bizzy Coffee started out of a passion project. Grew from just dry grounds all the way through coffee shots to concentrates, leading into our current configuration of our ready-to-drink products. Currently, #1 bestseller on Amazon for dry goods. And our retail channel growth has grown to a little over 6,500 stores, and more coming on seemingly every month.
Wow, that's 6,500 stores, no joke.
Yeah. So a little bit about myself. I've been in manufacturing for about 15 years, had just about every role that you can imagine in operations and an accounting supply chain. Pretty much the only thing I haven't tried to put my toe in is food safety, with all the science and all that stuff behind it. But really personal core value, continuous improvement, which has led me into a lot of various roles. And fortunate to have been a part of 4 different implementations of ERP processes. Even though I'm not an IT guy by any means, just having that passion and wanting to improve at all turns.
Great, thank you for that. And a little bit about Wherefour. Wherefour is an ERP that helps businesses manage their inventory operations and compliance. We're based in the Bay Area. You can see a small sampling of our customers on here. We focus primarily in compliance-based industries like food and beverage, health and beauty, cannabis, and some others. So without further ado, let's kind of dive into the presentation here. What we're going to go through are some common growth challenges, the first of which is really common with any growing business, which is basically the folks that were there at the beginning can't continue to do everything that they did. And so, Derek, could you tell us a little bit about that and how you tackled the challenge of potentially letting go of the reins of certain tasks at the company?
Yeah. Delegate to elevate. As hard as it is, you get used to your routine and what you're doing. But as you grow, there's only bigger and better things to chase after. So what we really did is focused on what I'll call our process transparency, documenting our processes, train our processes, make sure that they're followed by all. We've kind of dubbed ours the Bizzy way, if you will, not the XYZ prior employee company way done at Bizzy Coffee, but this is the Bizzy way. And then you can build in really simple checks and balances to make sure that that people are doing what you want them to do, and you can build trust and gain clarity.
Oh, that's great. About how many employees do you have now?
Yeah, we just crossed the 50 mark.
All right, I think there's some compliance things that come with going over 50. So
Yep.
the next thing I know is near and dear to pretty much every business that I talk to, and I talk to hundreds every year, which is the people recruitment, contention, and retention. It's pretty much #1 on both lists of importance for any company as well as a challenge. So could you talk a little bit about what you've done to attract good people and keep them?
Yeah. So, anyone who's been in business through the pandemic knows how big of a concern it is. But also start forward thinking. The next generation of workers, this is what they've seen since they've been in high school. This is what they know. With current work formats. So we tried to really break down what is a job to everybody, personal satisfaction, work environment, and then lastly compensation. And one of the easiest things to do, especially with the new generation of kids coming out of college, personal satisfaction and work environment means so much to them. And with that, what's the easiest ways to do that? Infuse technology. Let them work from home. Let them still be productive in ways that fits their lifestyle, and all of those things. And generally, what we have found here at Bizzy is if you can get two out of those three rock solid, and we try to make it job satisfaction and work environment, pay does not matter to them. Nobody is going to leave your organization. They'll be happy to recruit their friends and tell everybody how great it is to be there. But other thing too, we do self-manufacture here, and manufacturing is an old, antiquated, I'll say it, non-sexy job that people, people in high school, young people don't find that an attractive career. Infuse technology to make it attractive again.
Cool, man, that's great advice. And so the next thing kind of goes hand in hand with this, which is basically anytime you start hiring people and building manufacturing facilities, costs come with that. So could you talk a little bit about how you manage that? It's been the graveyard of a lot of growing businesses that have been suffocated by success from a cash flow standpoint. So why don't you dive into that a little bit?
Yeah. Growth, delegation, increased number of employees, increased number of processes. Why work harder, have more stress, all for less, right? So some of the things that we really focused on is simplifying our daily check-ins in an age of abundance of data, right? Try and figure out which are the 4 to 5 key drivers to your business that are going to make an impact, and then really simplify your reporting or scorecarding to those things. And then do a little game theory, plan ahead. What if something becomes off track? What are you going to do in your business to get it back on the right track, and talk about this is what we're going to do when this happens, so that way it's not a fire drill, it's not a surprise to anybody. And then all of a sudden it doesn't become stressful when you're like, well, if this happens, if they're running this defense, we're calling this offensive play, and you can still be successful and have everybody know what's going on, and people won't be afraid to bring up problems then, once everyone feels comfortable that there is solutions in place.
Not to put you on the spot, but are there any kind of borderline catastrophic scenarios that you had pre-planned for that maybe actually happened and you were able to deal with them a little bit better?
Oh, sure. Capacity planning is a big one. As a growing business, you want to say yes to every customer at every turn. So just knowing, what are some of those things? What can you do? Extra shifts, work weekends, and start thinking, hey, if we land this customer, what does it mean to our business? What does it mean to capacity? Cost management, a huge one. When it comes to raw materials, things like that, especially going through the pandemic with the shortage. What are you going to do? One of the things that we did is loaded up on inventory, especially things that were far distance away. It cost us more, but we were able to maintain and grow our business structurally, and yielded us better results once we're through it and we're back to normal inventory levels. So just knowing all of those right business decisions to make.
Okay, great, interesting. So the next thing we'll hit on here is basically, you touched on it. It sounds like there's a lot of organization and process development within your company, and no company becomes successful without developing consistent processes. So Maybe let's go through a few of the things, and there's probably a list of many, but a few of the things that you found particularly critical to implementing processes, because it's not an easy job to first create them and then really ingrain them in the company culture.
Yeah. So a big one, structure repeatability for us, right? The busy way. How do we make sure that all of our employees are rowing the boat the same direction that we all want to go? Way faster to get there when we're all rowing together, if you will, versus one person rowing backwards. And you sit and spin in circles. So that's been a huge one for us to do. And then as we hire more and more people, we get them trained in the busy way right away, instead of XYZ company, this is how they did it and this is how I know how to do the job. But all of a sudden, well, we've got different parameters here, we've got different working capital needs, we've got different space constraints. We have this equipment, not that equipment, type things, where all of a sudden you hire somebody and they're taking a different company's approach in your company, and it doesn't get you where you want to get to. It ends up costing you more time to train them and get them on board.
Right. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And this next one you talked about, but it's kind of for any founder or early employee is a difficult thing to do, which is basically letting go of things and trusting that the folks that you've brought in are going to be able to do them in a consistent and reliable way. So can you talk a little bit about how you, and you have a little bit of how you've delegated things and how you've made those decisions?
Yeah. So delegation, really huge, to create capacity. I always be creating capacity for the next thing and the next thing and the next thing. It also really helps in the people retention side of things. If you kind of think about delegation, really what you're doing is you're mapping out people's career paths. Who isn't excited to stay at your business when you say, once you get proficient at this job, then we're going to slide the next thing onto your deck. They're growing, they feel the personal and professional growth, and you're getting crazy, crazy good value. As anyone who's been out in the marketplace trying to hire, promoting from within is oftentimes quite a bit substantially cheaper. And you're developing, another person, another human being, your friend, that you're spending, 8 to 10 hours a day with.
How frequently, I mean, that's an interesting thing because it's how frequently are you meeting with employees to kind of go over that career path? And is it like every 6 months? Is it continual, once a year, or what does that look like?
Yeah, we started off with once a year, and then we thought that was too wide. Then we went to quarterly, and that was maybe a little too narrow, trying to change too much too fast. So we've really kind of landed on that 6 month, or trajectory of the business, maybe over multiple years, kind of a 3 year picture with everybody as the business hits certain milestones. Like we do share our sales growth with everybody, and we kind of think, hey, at this level of sales, this is going to work. Once we hit this next level, we're going to add this layer and this layer, and just create visibility that, we're going to add to functions, and we're going to have to keep narrowing up people's plates. You're not going to have the flexibility to wear 5 hats anymore. Then it turns to 4, then it turns to 3. And then it's really working with the people to make sure, hey, what are you the most passionate about? What gets you out of bed in the morning? What gets you going? And then making sure that's the role that they have. Or even if it isn't, like, hey, can you do this? You're really good at this. Can you do this for this period of time until we grow to where we can hire that next spot? But a lot of it's working with the people and making sure that, one, it fits the business needs, but one, it fits what they're super interested in doing. And generally people, if they're interested and feel like they do a good job of it, they want to keep doing it.
Yeah, which kind of goes to this next thing, and you mentioned something. Everybody talks about transparency and being transparent, but not a lot of folks kind of live up to that. You mentioned that you share sales with all of the employees as a private company. I know that's pretty rare. Are there any other examples of things that and you also mentioned kind of the performance metrics earlier. Are there any other, quick things that you share with your employees that you feel get them to buy into the organization?
Yes, yeah. So once we got process developed, and this was a really fast follow, but just a simple question for everybody: does everyone in your organization know what their target is? Do they know what success looks like? Do they know they've done a good job today? So we have kind of tried to assign we'll try to get down to one number, but we still have a few jobs where it's 3 or 4 numbers. But if you hit this number or hit this target, you leave feeling fulfilled that you've done a good job. And us as managers know that our process is going well, our people are doing a good job. And then if you leave feeling good every day, like, hey, I got a gold star today at work, I want to come back and keep doing it. I want to keep getting more and more gold stars. And before you know it, you've created this culture of really good accountability, really good success, really good work ethic. And you didn't have to go like, hey guys, we're pound sand and we're gonna work 10 hours a day. People just want to do it. And then even if something gets off track or they're not hitting their number, they're eager to want to get back on. So they start asking questions. Hey, this isn't working right. What help me find the solution? Because I want to feel like I feel when I know I'm doing a good job, and I don't have that feeling right now. And as your organization grows, it's easy when you're all working in the same room and you can say, hey, good job to everybody every day. But all of a sudden you get to 50 employees and people are coming and going at different times. It's impossible to connect on a daily basis and say, hey, good job. And just reinforce that positivity of wanting to come back to the workplace.
Yeah, that's great. And you kind of talked about the data that you have to drive decisions and transparency. So why don't we hop on to our next slide here, which is critical to to any organization's success and can be, and if bad decisions are made on technology, can be um, detrimental to, can cost money and time when businesses are growing. And so can you talk a little bit about the technology that you've brought in? And then we did have a question about, specifically about the technology that you've brought in with regard to the capacity planning, how you've done that capacity planning, and the types of metrics and information that you get out of the system to make your decisions.
Yeah, sure. So a lot of these things that you'll see on this slide, a lot of it is what Wherefour does, and that was our first thing that we did here is get a good ERP system, completeness, ease of access to the data, and making it real time. So you can't say, hey, I show up at a meeting, I think a slip sheet costs 50 cents when in reality it costs 88 cents. You just make too many gut feel blunders without having complete data and having it linked to whatever accounting software you've got. Your costs are right if you're pushing it across because they got to match. And so real good things to do there. I thought I used this lock code this day, and if you're doing your lock code traceability, with certainty what you've done. So that was really the big one there. As far as our capacity planning goes, we've always tried to identify our T maxes on our equipment. And so as you start assembling any mismatch of equipment and put things together, figuring out what your T max is. As you hit certain sales rates, what kind of efficiency do you want? And then just always know, hey, when we grow and this piece of equipment can only do 40 a minute and we want to start running at 60 a minute, start getting ahead of those things. Do you get redundancies? So you get 2 of the 40s. Do you buy something brand new? Where's the caliber of your people? Can they handle brand new equipment, or do we know this equipment really good and we should replicate? And just always kind of knowing what that next unlock is ahead of time, so you don't have to find out the hard way of, oh, we got the sales, now we're struggling to make it. Just always kind of knowing what your limitation is, and some of it is by design, right? You want this to be your limitation because this is all the money that you have to spend.
Cool. And could you talk quickly about Red Zone? And then we've got I know we're running a little short on time, but I know people would be interested to kind of hear about that software and what that does for you.
Yeah. So Red Zone is a real-time plant software, excuse me, application. Really recommend it for anyone that has their own manufacturing plant and/or co-packers to run it. You can put on your cell phone. You can see how your production facility is doing live. at any point in time. Great visual management tool, great tool to make people feel good about that they're doing their job across all language platforms. And really as managers, it allows you to see what assets you're struggling with, to what you should look at reinvesting in or correcting, and what the potential impact is to build a really solid IRR or ROI model behind it. And it allows you to support your production, because you can see if you're down and your chart's not filled in, get your butt out there, support your people. Nobody likes to come to the office tail between their legs saying I need help. So be out there, and you don't have to say, oh, there's a problem. Just say, hey, I was making my daily check, let me help. And all of a sudden they feel supported. And if you do have your own manufacturing facility, that difference between back of house and front of house, out of all of them I've been at, it's there. It's just a part of of self-manufacturing.
That's great. So we've heard about a lot of the things that you have done right, and it would be interesting to hear, and we all like to learn from the potentially things that others did that maybe they would have done a little bit differently along the way. Do you have a story or an anecdote on that front?
Yeah, absolutely. I would definitely focus on infusing talent or infusing technology early to develop your process, being able to work on your business sooner than working in your business so you can get ahead of the growth. It's so much easier to set policies or set procedures when it's relatively small, and then it's easy to onboard people and have them fit your culture and fit what you're doing, versus you get to busy coffee structure of 30-35 people and then start making a lot of changes. It's just a lot slower, harder process to do when you have more people. Change just becomes that much harder. A lot more meetings, a lot more people to confirm with. And now we have those things set. Hiring is easy. Our people can help train our other people because they know this is how we do it. And then the last thing I would say is grow yourself. If you follow as a leadership team, if you believe in the leaky barrel concept, you can only fill a barrel up to the shortest plank. Don't let yourself be the shortest plank. Don't limit your company's. Don't hit the ceiling with your capability of what you can do in your business. Allocate time to work on yourself. Plenty of books out there, plenty of things. Even something like this. Keep working and thinking ahead, and just make sure that you can unlock that unlimited growth that's out there in the marketplace.
Right. And speaking of that, any key sales or marketing strategies or things that happened along the way that resulted in you getting to the 6,500 plus stores that you're in right now?
Sure. Yeah. In-house manufacturing has been a huge one for us. And with that, just knowing how to access all of our capacity. Not that we want to buy equipment that we only run 20% of the time, or have staff that we only get 50% utilization out of, but just know what those triggers are so you can react fast to the marketplace. Fortunately for us, one of our competitors had some supply issues, and we end up picking up our biggest customer just simply because we had product that was available. So some of those things that you spend the least amount of work on, all of a sudden makes the biggest impact. And then, for us as a self-manufacturer, we focused a lot on flexible manufacturing, being able to adapt to different capabilities. Same equipment to fill shots, same equipment to fill concentrates, same equipment to fill our RTD bottles. So we could try different platforms to see what worked without having to reinvest a ton of money in equipment.
Yeah, great. That's super interesting. Can you share with us who that competitor was that tripped up a little bit on their supply?
It's a coffee industry. Everyone knows who the giant mermaid is.
Yeah, very interesting. So, yeah, that's great. And the same thing would go. A lot of companies in your place do outsource their production, but from a capacity planning standpoint, it probably really goes to show you that you need to plan with any outsourced manufacturing, whether you have co-packers or co-manufacturers that are doing that work for you. You really need to be communicating with them, I would think, to have the same sort of results that you've had with in-house manufacturing. Yeah, so we have any questions? We do have one open question that I can address, and it was how to use Wherefour for capacity planning or for different production lines. So the answer to that question is Wherefour is dealing with the inventory piece of it, which is material and inventory planning and what you have on hand and what you're going to need and when, based on differing forecasts for production and demand. With regard to the machine capacity planning, that red zone tool that we talked about is what you would use for more of the machine capacity planning. I'll wait a few seconds here and see if any more questions filter in from anyone out there.
And I would highlight to that question, I focus a lot on the plant, but even more so on the inventory, making sure if you want to grow your production capabilities, making sure that everything leading up to it goes flawless. It's kind of a dominoes effect. If the sub processes leading into the plant aren't set up right, there's no way for the plant to be successful. So make sure that you've set that up. And we really use the MRP tool in Wherefour to a large degree, not only to make sure we've got enough inventory, but to make sure we have the right amount of inventory. One of the things that we've done here is substantially reduce our on-hand inventory using that MRP function, and that has created so much working capital for other factors of our business to be able to do things that we otherwise didn't think that we could do.
That's great. Thank you. Another question popped in here. What do you have any books? You'd kind of mentioned self-growth and self-improvement. Do you have any one or two books or resources that maybe you've used that you thought were particularly successful or useful?
Yeah. So I really like Gino Wickman as an author. He launched the EOS Entrepreneur Operating System and has a subset of 4 or 5 books following that. On an annual basis, I read The First Time Manager. I can't remember the author at the top of my head, but that's always just a really good grounding book to things. I also really like Patrick Lencioni as an author. He writes a lot of fables that are really solid that you can apply to your business or things like that. Who Moved My Cheese is always a great one to read as well.
That's great. We have a question. What is about the MRP specifically? So MRP stands for Material Resource Planning. It's basically a tool within Wherefour that allows you to look at historical sales or to put a forecast in place and then ripple back to understand what raw material inventory you need to bring in and when, based on vendor lead times and volumes, as well as any intermediary products if you have a multi-step manufacturing process, what you need to make in order to end up with the amount of finished product that you're going to need on hand at a specific time. Yeah, I believe, unless another question pops up here. So yeah, if another question pops up, we'll answer that, but just wanted to, again, thank everyone for coming. This was definitely our most popular lunchtime webinar that we've done so far. Connect with us on LinkedIn, buy Bizzy Coffee wherever you see it, at Walmart and on Amazon, and then feel free to stop by and see Wherefour at Expo West next month. So without that, we don't have any more open questions. Thank you again. We'll send out the email thanking everyone for coming and the recording of the webinar that you can pass along to any colleagues that couldn't make it. So thank you very much. I appreciate your time today, Derek, and all the expertise and information that you passed along to the folks that were here.